The blood of Jesus. I know who I am because of who you are. Isn't that good news? Your love, it comes with no conditions. You give us your whole heart. We need to give him our whole heart. It's a whole act of worship. So tonight, let's sing out. We have a reason to celebrate. We have a reason to be proud. We know who we are because of who he is. I know who I am because of who you are. I know who I am. I know who I am. Come and go, you give us your who am I that the highest king would welcome me?
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, who is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me, his grace from sin. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me.
Yes, he died.
Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, who is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am.
I'm chosen.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You
is a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Let's sing the sun sets free. The sun sets free. Hope is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house. Lift your voice. In my Father's house is a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house is a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Hallelujah. Holy, holy, God Almighty, the great I am, who is worthy, none beside God Almighty, great I am. Hallelujah. Holy, holy, God Almighty, the great I am, who is worthy, none beside me. God Almighty, the great I am. Heavenly Father, the sustainer of all things, the creator of all things, we just come before you today and we sing your praises. The great I am. Who can hold that title? None but you. Let's sing that again. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Holy, holy, God Almighty, the great I am, who is worthy, none beside me. God Almighty, the great I am. Lord, we just seek you. Hallelujah, holy, holy. You are above everything, Lord. Who you say I am. Not who they say I am, but who you say I am. Father, it's just it'd be hard to wrap that around our heads. The creator of everything, and not just the creator that created and left, but Lord, you are the sustainer of everything. In him is all things hold together. Through your Son, Jesus Christ. And Lord, I just ask that you just help us to realize how amazing it is that the creator of all things made a personal decision to create us individually with talents and gifts. And all we can sing is Hallelujah, holy, holy.
Yeah, you may be seated. Oh, good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Pesky. I'm the ministry coordinator here. Randy's not here, so the rules are gone. Not really. We're going to do a quick offering right now. If you are a guest here at Inspire, we're not looking for your money. We're just so happy you're here. I'm guessing the kids are better at inviting than the parents. I'm just saying. Just saying, parents. The kids are kind of rocking inviting. But let that basket go past you if you're a guest here. Members, we shoot for 10%. Kiddos, we shoot for, 0.3%. Yeah, thanks. But no, giving is not just for adults, it's for kids too. So, if you're not making any money, that's really good for you for the offering time. But if you are making some money, think about starting that habit. It's a great habit to start. Couple quick announcements. Third grade Bibles is going to be this Sunday. So parents of third graders, if you haven't signed up for that, this is a really cool time. We give you the Bible. You got to provide the kid. But sign up for that online for either the 9 or 10:45 so we know where to get those Bibles at. The other thing we've got is new member class Sunday after service. So if you're thinking of, well, maybe I think I want to be part of this Inspire family thing, that class is going to be Sunday right after the 10:45 service. We'll provide childcare and food, but we just ask that you sign up out there so we can make sure we have enough food. And senior hires, you got Hockett tonight. So after the service, go hang out in the coffee shop with Ernie. It's going to be a good time. All right. It's time, Kate. Carol, I'm going to need your help. Okay, tonight's all about secret hidden talents. So we're going to challenge you in this epic game we like to call Tippy Cup. So where are my sixth graders? Sixth graders, stand up. Carol, Kate, I need 5 of them. Now, just not any 5. I need talented 5 who can compete against fierce competitors. So where are my 5? Can I get some light up here, Crystal? Okay, pick them. Just grab them. We don't have all night. Let's go. Well, or at least available. Okay, let's get them. Okay, those are my 6th grade team. All right. Now I need a 7th grade team. 7th graders, stand up. 7th graders, where are my 7th graders at? Okay. Do we have my 7th grade team? Yeah, well, whatever. Now I need my 8th grade team. Do I have an 8th graders? 8th graders, stand up and be counted. Here we go. Stand up. They're going to pick you. We'll get the directions. Don't worry. We'll explain it in colored crayons and you'll understand. Okay, we got our 8th grade team. Okay, 9th graders. Where are my 9th graders? I need some 9th graders. Maybe 10th graders could help them if we don't have enough 9th graders. Okay, do we have enough 9th graders? They might have to go twice. These who want to play, then they'll have to go like twice and then a third time for the third one, okay? Okay, adults, you're not out of the game either. Kids who are left, let's nominate a parent. I need 5 parents. The one in the gray sweatshirt. Dad. Trust me, you played this game in college. You'll be fine. There we go. Come on up, TJ. There's one. Nicole, you're up. Yes. There we go. Come on up. 1, 2, 3. How many adults do I have? No, adults, you're over here on this table. 1, 2, 3. I need 2 more. 2 more adults. 4. I need 1 more brave adult. There we go. Come on up. And no Tippy Cup game would really be complete without the band represented. Okay, so here's how we play the game. Okay? So everybody tip your cup so like the drinking part is upside down where you'd get the water. And then what you have to do, see me kids, you got to go flip. And you got to get it to land up. Hence the talent, okay? So, we don't go all at once. It's like a relay race. So the first guy gets it, then the next guy goes, then the next guy goes. Is it the other way? Okay, it's the other way. You got to flip it so the drinking, yeah. So it's like this, and you flip it to this way. Like that. See how I just did it? You start this way. Okay, but we're going to go down the line. You start this way, and then you go bloop. Okay? You're going to go one at a time. Are you ready? Is all the tables ready, Harrison? Are they good over here? Parents and a band, I'm sure, is going to cheat, so let's keep an eye on them. Kate? All right, are you ready for Tippy Cup game? In the winner, there is a prize per side. 6th grade versus 7th grade versus 8th grade versus 9th grade versus adults versus the band. Band has an unfair advantage. They've practiced. Okay? On your marks. Get set. Go. Who's on this side? There you go. Cheer 'em on, folks. Let's hear it. Did they get it? The band wins. No, they're still going. They're still going. There we go. Oh, they got it first. All right, we'll let the 9th and 10th graders win it since the band's already, paid here. 8th, was it the 8th graders? 8th graders won. Who saw that coming? Oh, we did it. They won. Okay, as they're clearing off, we broke the internet. That's okay, he doesn't have slides anyway. As they're clearing this off, I will be calling Ernie Hockett. Ernie Hockett to the front. Did Ernie leave? That would be no good. Many of you know this man, and we're sorry about that.
We are the world. We are the children.
Okay, that's good. That's nice. As I said, Randy is gone. He thought the Vikings were more important than his flock. I don't know. You can write him angry emails all you want. But Ernesto here is a very talented preacher. So tonight we're going to give it over to Ernie and take us home, Ern.
All right, thanks, everybody. Anybody scared to have me up here tonight? You should be. You should be. I have been in youth ministry for 38 years now. 38, and I think I've stayed because I act like y'all. But wasn't this full of gifted people up here flipping these cups? I mean, this is just an amazing thing. Let's give it up for the cup flippers. Woo! Well, I remember a long time ago when I was in teen camp. Anybody ever gone to teen camp? What a crazy time teen camp is. If you ever get a chance to go, you go. And I was actually a director of a teen camp once. Can you imagine me as a director? We did all kinds of creative things. We created this huge mud pit, but what we didn't tell the kids is the mud pit was like 30 feet deep. That year we lost 6 kids in teen camp. Let's hear it for them kids who are out there somewhere. Woo! With a rope around the whole group, and all we did is say, go. Can you imagine? You got the entrepreneurs in the front of the line who are pulling this thing as hard as they can to win this race. You got the people in the middle who are just undecided if they want to be there or not. And you got the guys on the end who know that they don't want to be there. And so when these guys take off, the only criteria was you had to go around. And we baptized the whole group of them with about 100 gallons of water. And then we said go. And I mean to tell you what, kids were falling out the back of this, and several were trampled, and many were bleeding awful bad. We had to take them over to the medic and stuff. But that makes teen camp, right? Put your hand up and go, hoo-yah. I remember at that particular teen camp, we tested their talents because I was tired of all the years where we had a talent competition. And really, it was like American Idol. All we had was singers sign up. So we had to sign up for about 3 hours of hearing people sing. And, you know, there's some people who can. And then there's other people who their grandmother told them they could sing, and they show up and they sing these songs, and it just gets a little boring. This year, it wasn't like that. I said, this year we're going to do something a little different, Carol. I'm going to see, I said, if there's any real hidden talent out there. Nobody can sing this year. So you got to figure out something you can do for these people that'll really entertain them. I said, are you up for the challenge? And the whole camp goes, yeah. And they went out there and they started doing their stuff. And we found out in that camp, there were 2 guys that could like juggle stuff. I mean, these guys were really good. They got 3 of them going back and forth, just like this. And they were juggling stuff. And then they'd get other stuff, and they'd get books, and they'd throw them back and forth. And everybody clapped, and everybody screamed. Another kid took like a spaghetti and shoved it up his nose in front of people and then pulled it out his mouth. And he was doing this with the spaghetti. Just like that. Tell you what, that was like, started out as like yellow spaghetti and ended green, you know? It was like booger spaghetti. Anybody gonna eat that? Another guy comes in, and we didn't really limit this thing, and we didn't really think of safety and danger and stuff. And seriously, he took this lighter fluid, seriously, squirted it in his mouth, lit a match, and went, whoo, and the flame just goes boom, and everybody goes, ah, the devil's coming after us. I'd never seen it before, but a couple got together, and they had ice cube. And these were leaders. They're supposed to set examples, and they're supposed to be leaders. And what they did is they took these in their mouth, and one would get on that end, and this one would go, and that one would catch it. There was a guy who could fart on command that year at this camp. Swear to you. He did that for a talent. Anybody ever seen that for a talent? Like, and here we have Tim, and his talent is flatulence. It was just a crazy, crazy thing. We had a burp off that year where we had people that could hold a burp for 30 seconds. They could do all verses of the Star-Spangled Banner in burp. I'm just curious, is there anybody here tonight that has a secret talent that they would like to come and share with the group? Anybody that has something. Something. You can do something with your face. Here's all I got. That's it. I look like a cartoon character. And of course, I got the human earthquake. I'm going to start the ripple at my feet, and it's going to end up in my face. Don't laugh. Cut it out. I've got to concentrate here. Okay, that's what I got. Anybody else? Thank you very much. Anybody else got a hidden talent? Quickly. A hidden talent. Alex, do you? Alex, come on, help me. Okay, good. Do you like gross stuff? Come on. Okay, Alex, what you got? What's that? Okay. This was not at that camp. This is going to be something brand new. You step up on the stage because we're all going to want to see this. This woman could put her whole fist in her mouth. See, this is the stuff we look for. Okay, go ahead. Show everybody. Yes, let's give it up for her. It is a hidden talent. Well, I'm sure if we had a lot of time that you could think of something. But let's do this. The scripture's in Matthew chapter 25. And this is actually about talents, and it's about gifts, but more about talents. And it says this. It says, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going into another country who called together his servants. And he loaned them money to invest for him while he was away. He gave $5,000 to one, $2,000 to another, and $1,000 to the last, dividing it into proportions according to their abilities. And then he left on his trip. The man who received $5,000 began immediately to buy and to sell with it, and he soon earned another $5,000. The man with $2,000, he went right to work too, and he earned another $2,000. Let's hear it for these guys, okay? Come on, these guys need a round of applause. But then we have, but the man who received $1,000, he dug a hole in the ground, and he hid the money for safekeeping. Let's hear boos. Boo for that guy. So after a long time away, the master returned from the trip, and he called them to him to account for his money. And the man whom he had entrusted $5,000, get ready to yell and scream and be glad for this guy, he brought him $10,000 back. Is that good? Awesome. His master praised him for his good work, and he said, "You've been a faithful man in handling this small thing." And he says, then if you can be good in small things, then I will entrust you to bigger things. And then he came to the man who had $2,000. He said, "Hey, what did you do with the money that I had given you?" And the man with $2,000, he walked up, and he had doubled it. He had $4,000. And so then he said, "That was really, really good work." He said, "I put you over something small. Now I can give you more to handle because you were faithful in the small things when it came to talents." And then the man with $1,000, he came and said, "Sir, I knew that you were a very, very hard man." He said, "I was afraid you would rob me of what I earned." He said, "So I hid your money in the earth, and here it is. I brought back $1,000. Is that okay? I brought $1,000 back. That's what you gave me. I was afraid, so I brought that back." But the master looked at him, and he got a little different reply. He said, "You wicked man." He said, "You lazy slave. Since," he says, "you knew I would demand a profit, you should have at least put the money in the bank so that it could have earned interest." Let's pray. Father in heaven, tonight I pray that you will speak to our hearts. We desperately need you in this hour to speak to us about the things you have entrusted each of us with. No matter how young and no matter how old we are, we could be laced with excuses for not doing with what you gave us and investing in things that matter to you. And we'd have an excuse every single time. But God, tonight as we study this just for a little bit, I pray that you will quiet our hearts, and somehow inside that we would listen like we've never listened before, as if we would like you, God, to enter into our space and to come and change us. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I watched this scenario play out one time in my home church when I was about 12 to 14 years old. Almost exactly. The thing is that through our denomination, the one that I was with, they wanted us to raise money for the starving kids in El Salvador at that time. And so each church on our district was going to do something to raise some money in order to send money to this worthy cause. And I remember that Sunday, our pastor stood in front of the people, and he gave this great message on giving and why we should give, and that there's people less fortunate than us. And he looked out there and he said, there's approximately 65 of you in this audience today, and I got into my own bank account And I've brought with me $65 today. Before we leave, everybody from the smallest kid to the oldest adult is going to get one of these dollars. And all of us kids just thought that was really, hey, we get a dollar. That's awesome. Because you know, when I was a kid, a dollar could buy stuff. Anybody older than 50 knows this. You could, like, on a quarter or a dime, go to a movie, get all your popcorn, pay for your date. I mean, to tell you what, we could do everything with just a dime back then. We were going to get a whole dollar. So that was really, really cool. So Pastor stood at the door, and all of us lined up, and we got our dollar. And his only stipulation was, make this grow. Use something creative in your life and get some good ideas to take this dollar and make it more than what it is. I'm going to entrust this with all of you. And when that was started, I'm a pretty creative kid, and I knew there were some creative people in the audience, but you think, boy, that's all he gave us. He didn't tell us anything. But from that, here's what happened. Here's what happened. We ended up raising more than $5,000 in that campaign from $65. You go, how in the world could you do that? Well, here's how we did it. Some of the kids decided that they were going to do chores for their mom and dad. And so they started doing chores for their mom and dad, and they started doing it for friends. We had a month in order to do all of this, and before the end of the month, many of the kids had raised $50. This is my granddaughter, Finley. Could you stand just for a moment, Finley? Kids that age raised $50 for starving kids in El Salvador. Was that awesome or what? And then it got better than that. Then kids a little bit older, including myself, I thought, hey, I could take this dollar and I could buy a gallon of gas. Back then you could buy a gallon of gas for $1. I'd put it in my lawnmower. Then I'd go to doors and knock on them and tell them what I was doing, raising for starving kids in El Salvador, and could I mow your lawn? And most of them said, of course, for the starving kids in El Salvador, we'll even pay you $10 instead of like the $5 you would have gotten. And so we were getting extra money in that. And the kids who did that, including myself, raised from $200 to $500 from $1. Was that awesome or what? That's great. That's like a get-rich-quick scheme. Forget about them kids in El Salvador. Group of ladies got together and they said, hey, we could put our dollars together and we could buy flour and sugar and all this stuff, and we could have a bake sale downtown. And so they set up shop in several locations around town, and when they would sell the baked goods, big old sign on there for starving kids in El Salvador, people would come up and buy, and they'd give you extra for that. And at the end, when it was time, they had raised from $500 to $1,000 from just a few dollars. There was a couple guys in our church that were entrepreneurs. They knew people all over town. One guy, he raised $1,500 from $1 bill. You know how he did it? He knew a lot of people, so he'd go into the bank, and he'd come in with $1, and he'd say, raising money for kids in El Salvador, I have $1 here. I'll trade you for a $5 bill. And they'd do it. He'd have a $5 bill in his hand, go to another person, hey, I have a $5 bill. I'll trade you for a $10 bill. And do you know what? He did that for an entire month and raised $1,500. And then celebration day came when we all got to bring this in. And one by one, we began to walk up and put it in the offering plate as the preacher called people forward. And they had these baskets sitting out, and we began to put in what he had invested. Then we begin to put back in what the profit from what we had gotten. And the basket began to fill up. And that day, they raised more than $5,000. And most people that day had the best time of their life, knowing that it would go for a good cause, and they got to be a part of it with their gifts and their talents. I said most of them because there were ones that day, I remember, only brought the $1 back. They just brought the $1 back. A lot of excuses went with it. They were ashamed when they saw the celebration of the others, and they didn't get on the celebration because they had dropped the ball. They had slacked off, and they'd become a group of slackers and with nothing but excuses. I didn't have any time. I didn't know what to do with the money. I couldn't be creative enough with this money, and I absolutely didn't know anything I could do to raise any more money with this. And you'd think they'd reach into their own bank account and at least put $1 more with this and double it. But on the day of celebration, they were sad. Another group that was sad is they kept the dollar. It's sad. They kept the dollar. They were the ones that, for some reason or another, did not even show up that week for the celebration because they had nothing to bring, because they spent the dollar that they had been given. For them, there was no celebration. So let's just for a moment talk about this. Let's be real with one another tonight on this thing called gifts and talents, which, by the way, all of you have. Some of you don't know you have them, and you're going to discover them in the future if you can get your heart right. Let's talk about that. Every single one of you, God has created each of you with a distinct uniqueness, right down to your DNA, right down to your fingerprints, right down to your eyeballs, right down to the very core of what makes you you, the billions of cells. They are different from everybody else on the planet. Anybody heard of that new ancestry thing called, what is it? Ancestry.com, or 3andMe and we and gonna be and all this stuff, where you all you have to do is spit in a cup and you send the spit away. It's your spit, nobody else's. Can you imagine the analyst in there? All they have to do is analyze spit all day long. Anybody want to be a spitologist when you grow up? Boy, you are sick kids. And so that proves that you are like nobody else. Can you imagine on the day of creation with Adam being nothing but dirt, and God reaching down into this dirt and grabbing up a bunch of this soil or clay just like this, and the God of all the ages took what was from him, his breath, the very breath of God, and he did this into the clay. And what happened with the clay is it began to form into man. God, being the first artist, he sculpted this being, and he put a little bit of himself in him, and every one of us have that bit of us inside of us today, because it's the same thing that happens when you are born. I got to watch every one of my kids be born, and I cried every single time when that happened, because the miracle of life. Because how does it work? They're in this bag of water inside of their mom. It's this bag of water. They're just like a fish living in this water, and they don't have to breathe. They only breathe through the umbilical cord, which goes to their mom and them, and mom eats, they eat, mom breathes, they breathe. They're going, hey, this is cool, I like this place. Until then they're born, and they come into a whole different world, and it's not water. It's not warm anymore. They put me on this table and people are handling me. But do you know what happens for the very first time? And it happened to every one of you. From this to this. The first breath. God did it again. He stood over the void and he blew in the breath of life, and man became a living soul. What does God think of you? I know you think things of yourself, but God says you were fearfully and wonderfully made, and you are some of his artwork. In James 1:7, it says every good gift and every perfect gift comes from God. And God was there when you were born. He was there when you took your first step. He was there when you rode your first bike and you rode it like into a bush. He was standing right there beside you when all of those things happened, when your mom and dad were freaking out. God was standing there. Every day of your life, He has been with you. And how do you know that? You do it like, 300,000 times a day. You just did it a second ago. You're doing it right now. Do you know what you're doing? You're breathing. And every time you breathe, guess whose name you're saying? You're saying your Creator. Does anybody know that in the Greek and the Hebrew, the name for the Creator, God, is the Pneuma and the Ruah? Do you know that they called Him Elohim? And back then, they called Him Yahweh. Anybody know they called Him Yahweh? If you break that down into the Hebrew, it's pronounced this way. Yot ha va he. What does that sound like? Yot ha va he. Breathing sound. Do you know the name God means breath of life? And every good gift He put in you that first day that you were born. These talents were given for a heavenly reason. In 1 Peter 4:10, it says this, and I want you to listen. It says, as each of you has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good servants of what God has given. Do you know God not only breathed into you, but He had a purpose for your life when He breathed into you? Sixth graders, I want you to hear this because you think you are left out of this because you're too young. All of the people in here that look in the mirror and they say, that is a pile of dung there in the mirror. What you're doing is you're saying, the God who blew the breath of life into me and He hovered over me and He dances over me every day, that He really doesn't care. He has left me here all by myself to fend for myself in this school full of terror and full of people who hate me. He's given each of you gifts, and what He wants you to use them for as good stewards is He wants you to cry for what God cries for. He wants your eyeballs to be used to see what God sees. Your ears to be used for what God hears. And He wants you to take the investment that He gave you with gifts and talents, and He wants you to make it grow. When God made you, He gave gifts and talents to you, and some of you have many, and some of you have few. Does anybody know that somebody that seems to be able to do everything well? Everything, it doesn't matter. They're good at math. Who's good at math in here? Oh, man. The two most scary words in my life is called math tutor. Woo, scared me. Any of you good at like sports? We got the sports people. Yep. Listen. His reason is that His deep love and His mercy and His kindness and His forgiveness and His hope would grow inside of you. And that you would start thinking and believing and acting not like you're better than everybody else, but you're actually a child of God. God takes what He's given to you and what He's given to me very seriously. When Jesus left the earth, He stood there with like 70 people, and He said, I want you to go into all the world, and I want you to preach the gospel. And the gospel meant good news. I want you to go tell people good news. Expose to them that they are forgiven from their sins. People who have carried these things like rocks all of their life, and they're stooped over in their spirit. Tell them some good news, that someone cares for them, that someone just thinks about them, and somebody blew the breath of life into them and would like to heal them. That would be good news to them. And the only reason it makes sense for us to be created and put on this earth is to use what we got from our Maker to help others. Can somebody say amen on that? That's all we're here for. We're not here to put on a show. We're not here to show people that we're better than them. We're not here to shine brighter than any light on earth. We're here just to point where the light really is. But so many don't take it seriously. So many think that they are too busy or just selfish. And some people are just cotton picking, lazy about it. God didn't give me any talents. What could I do to help anyone? I'm just one person. I got nothing going, so I'll just play more video games. I'm too busy using my talents to get noticed. I'm too busy to use the energy of that to convince people that I'm worthy of their praise because I don't feel good about myself, so I need to seek attention. And I need to have some people say to me that I'm a good person to validate that I'm a good person. What happened to God blowing in the breath of life into you and saying you are wonderful himself? Don't you think that's validation enough, young people and older people in this congregation? Don't you think that's validation enough? You might say, oh, well, on Judgment Day, I'll just show up with just me, and it's good enough. Ooh, that's dangerous. Jesus told this story to give all the insight as to how things work in heaven and how he wants them to work on earth. We're the servants in the story, working for our master. Talents are given by God, and gifts are given by God. The return on what he has given is the impact that we have on other people. And how are you doing in that area? Do you work more in school to get attention, to get people to like you? Or do you work more in a school to show that you're more than that, and that you were created to be beautiful and wonderful, and that you were created to help them along in their struggles? When's the last time you went to a person that you thought was lower than you? And I know if we're honest, we all have them, but they're below us because we're in the hip crowd. And you just invited them to sit at your table. You'd learn a lot of things from those people. Listen, I get it. Some of you are broken. Things have happened in your life. Sometimes life doesn't make sense, and sometimes you're full of anxiety and you're full of depression. There's more of that going on in this day than ever before in the history of mankind among young people. More anxiety, I hear it all the time, and depression. And you're angry about stuff. Things you've had to put up with this far. I get it. You think you're disqualified. You think you're too hurt. You think you're too broken. Well, listen, I got something to show you tonight. I have sitting by me an old friend. This is a guitar that I had bought for my oldest son when he started playing, and it was his first guitar. So it's very special to me. Would you like to hear Bob Pesky play a little bit on this? Just a little tune. Bob? And I'm going to invite all of the band to come back. But I've got this guitar sitting here. It's very special to me. I asked my son tonight if I could borrow it. This, most of the time, now sits in the closet because my son got another guitar. And this one just sits there, but it's a constant reminder that's the first one I ever gave him. And Bob, could you just strum an old song like, could you play that Blackbird song first? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Pesky. This guitar is also holding a secret. It holds a secret, doesn't it, Bob? The Bob disguise. Now, just like the rest of you, I tried as best as I could to cover up the flaws. Very special guitar, but something very tragic happened to it. Let's just peel the scar away a little bit. It was his first guitar. in high school, he made some people mad at him. And you know, they came into his living space when he wasn't there. And one of the guys saw that guitar as something very special to him and walked over and put his foot into it. So if I was this guitar, I'd say I'm all washed up. I don't have any more talents. They're all gone. I've been stepped on. I've been lied to. But the thing is, you don't point this guitar to its own scars. You point it to his scars. And what he did. And this guitar needs to be taken off the shelf once in a while to remind all of us that no matter how broken you are in your life, there's still a song inside of you. There's still an influence you have on people. And it seems like the more broken you are, you got a story to tell. And then guess what? You start to leak out your life. And you leak love, baby. You leak forgiveness. You leak mercy. You leak kindness. And those are the tunes that everyone's hearts need to hear. The band is singing a song about beautiful things. And I'll just let it speak to itself. This is you tonight. Sing along with the band. And we're going to ask Bob to play this old broken guitar along with them, because no matter how broken you are, join everybody else who's broken, and God makes us whole.
Oh, will you stand and sing with us? You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the darkness. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. All around. All around. Hope is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. Oh, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful make me new. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making
Me new.
making me new. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dark. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us.
Amen. Amen. Here's the deal. Let the master play you. Quit thinking you got to do it all by yourself, because he who made you can use you. In the end here, I want us to be solid, because this little guitar now played with a whole band. Now this guitar's feeling pretty good about itself because it let the master use it. I want us to be together, because so often today with our phones and everything else, we're separate. I want you to do something different. I want everybody to come out of the aisle and come as close to the front for this last song as you can. I want you to put your arms around each other like this, like we're together in this. Like we're raising money for El Salvador, like a metaphor tonight, okay? So you come on in and let's raise money for like emotional Salvador, spiritual Salvador. And parents, you'll think, hey, this is for the kids. No, we need parents. We need parents here too. Move forward and let's sing this, Come to the Altar. If you have sins to confess, you confess them. If you don't feel worthy, tell God you're not worthy. If you got things to bring, come and bring them tonight. Hit it, band. And I want to hear you sing. Everybody, come on in. Come on in. Come on down.
Overwhelmed.
Come on, go. Come on down.
To sing, Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come the day, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes, new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness is born with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was born with the precious blood. Oh, what a Savior! Isn't He wonderful? bring it down. Oh, what a Savior, isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Bow down before Him, for He is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ.
I want you to repeat after me. I am an unrepeatable miracle of God. I want you to say it with conviction. I am an unrepeatable miracle of God. Woo! You go in peace. God bless you.